Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel. It's been a minute since we did a live. Sorry about that. I've been a little bit preoccupied and tied up doing some other things, and I'm back. And so I'll be back tonight, and then I'll be talking some true crime on Tuesday night and Wednesday night as well. We'll be Tuesday night talking about the Brian Kohberger case and some of the things that have gone down here recently. And so you don't want to miss that. I know a lot of the viewers come here for the Brian Kohberger content, and there's some stuff that's come out that I want to touch on. Typically, a little bit of backstory about me for those that are watching for the first time. I'm ex-law enforcement, and so when I was a police officer, once the arrest's made and they go to trial, if you testify, you testify. If you don't, then it gets squared away. If there's a plea, if there's whatever the case happens, it doesn't affect the officer anymore. You let those things go, whether they get a plea deal and get an easy way out, or they get acquitted, or they get found guilty, or whatever the case may be. So it's a little bit new to me to just kind of revisit something that I think is a dead horse, so to speak, when it comes to the Brian Kohberger case. But there's a lot of interesting things that have come out and some new developments. Howard Bloom, an author who I've had on the show, has stated some interesting things here recently that I want to talk about and give my opinion on. So that's going to be on Tuesday night, guys. So you want to like, comment, subscribe, hype the video. If you see the hype button, hit that hype button. All righty, guys. So without further ado, let's get into today's content. We're going to talk about the Brad Simpson murder trial that's about to happen. It's a local to me. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. So this is a San Antonio case. And it's one that, in my opinion, probably has a lot of circumstantial evidence. There's a lot of holes, in my opinion, in this case. And unfortunately, it seems like there may be some more holes or some more uphill battles for the prosecution in this case. Now, I, for one, think that law enforcement most likely got the right guy. I based on the evidence, and we'll talk about what had occurred and everything else in between to kind of catch everybody up for those who aren't familiar. And then we'll talk about today's, or the most recent update, which puts the trial in jeopardy, in my opinion. And so, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Without further ado, let's break it down. Let's get into it. And so this is just to get everybody caught up. San Antonio, this is cashapp.com. This is Miss Simpson herself, Miss Suzanne Simpson. She was a real estate, a guru out here in San Antonio. Basically a very high-end real estate agent for San Antonio. And so Suzanne Clark Simpson, an almost parked mother of 4, went missing on October 6, 2024. A year later, many questions remain unanswered. Simpson was last seen attending a party at the Argyle with her husband, Brad Simpson. While Suzanne Simpson has yet to be found, Brad Simpson has been charged with her murder in connection with her presumed death, alongside with charges related to owning prohibited weapons and tampering with evidence. Now, her body has not been found. And that's one of the biggest issues, in my opinion. Also, it was when they arrested him, to go back in time. So they arrested him for, I believe it was like gun charges, and they were holding him, and they were like holding the, I think he had a prohibited weapon, and we're going to get more into it, but he had a prohibited weapon, and they were holding him in custody. And he hadn't had like a bail hearing for a while. And I thought it was pretty odd. And when it first happened, and you guys can go back and watch this. I have a playlist that I think we're running on it now, and I had mentioned, I was like, for them to have held him for this long without charging him, they must be lacking some evidence here. And they may think, and there's a difference between what you know and what you can prove, right? And I was kind of concerned about that because it took a while for them to charge him with the murder case. They had him on the charges related to owning prohibited weapons. I think it was like a fully automatic weapon. I think it was a rifle. But had they found something that was more concrete, like a large amount of blood, or something that would make somebody believe that somebody was I don't want to sound harsh, but like pieces were removed, and kind of like what happened with what's going on with like the David case. And from what it sounds like, because they weren't able to charge him with anything right away, to me that kind of tells me that they probably didn't find anything like that at the residence or in the area. And they ended up charging him, and I believe they found some of Suzanne Simpson's DNA and blood on a reciprocal saw. So whether that was, a result of some sort of dismemberment, I don't know. It depends on how much, where at. The saw was discarded in a dumpster far away from the house. So it does sound like they got the right guy. There's a lot of other things that went down that night. But my concern is going to be, is it going to be able to go forward? So let's see. Let's continue. A neighbor told authorities that on the night of Suzanne Simpson's disappearance that they witnessed an argument between her and Brad Simpson that turned physical. That neighbor said that they heard screams and that Brad Simpson was clearly attempting to keep Miss Simpson from running away. I also want to emphasize that in the beginning, I don't know how Mr. Simpson's family feel now, but in the beginning, they were saying things like, well, you need to tell everybody what you did with Suzanne and come forward and own up to what you did. And so even his own family in the beginning, I don't know, where they side now, but in the beginning, they were not siding with Brad. Now let's continue. According to the arrest affidavit, Brad Simpson was seen traveling to various locations with trash bags and a tarp in his truck the day that Susan Simpson was last seen. Now, this is interesting because he's seen with a tarp, and in the probable cause affidavit, they allude to the tarp having some sort of bumps to it that would have alluded to the same size as a human body. And so they were trying to allude that they believe that Suzanne Simpson's body was in the bed of the truck. Now, I don't believe that to be the case for a couple of reasons. One, they never found the body. I know recently there was some remains that were found in Medina County, which is the area that he went into. But, with a release of information here about 4 days ago about the new evidence, it does not sound like those remains were determined to have been Suzanne Simpson's. And so don't know whose remains were found in Medina County. It came up on my my feed there on the Facebook and stuff, and I shared it. I even shared it on the Discord. If you want to be part of the Discord, you got to be a member. So think about joining. However, I shared it and nothing came out of it, so I can only assume that it was absolutely nothing. Let's continue this. Nothing with this case. Investigators discovered a burnt laptop, multiple cell phones belonging to Brad Simpson, along with an electric handheld saw. Authorities told Suzanne Simpson's family that her DNA was found on the saw. It was a handheld saw. I apologize. I thought it was a reciprocal saw, but it was a handheld saw, probably like a sawzall, which, again, I wonder how much DNA was on it. And if there was signs of it being cleaned and things of that nature. But that's pretty big. That's a huge piece of evidence. According to the affidavit, authorities said that Brad Simpson showed little emotion concerning his wife's disappearance at the time of his arrest on October 9th, 2024. Brad Simpson had reported his wife missing on October 7th, minutes after a friend of Suzanne Simpson had contacted both him and the authorities. Brad Simpson's longtime business associate, James Cotter, was also charged with possession of prohibited weapons and tampering with evidence with the intent to impair an investigation. According to the affidavit, Carter was texting Brad Simpson in the days after Suzanne Simpson's disappearance, and he was accused of hiding an illegal modified AK-47 that was stored in Brad Simpson's gunroom. That's the other thing, too, that I forgot to mention, was that when they went to go talk to him, he was actively burning, devices. I think it was his cell phone, and a laptop device that he was actively burning in a gun pit, in a burn pit. Again, I 100% believe that they got the right guy. My biggest concern is, do they have the evidence? And then with the new stuff that just happened, is it going to be worse? All right, let's continue. As Brad Simpson awaits trial, his brother Bart Simpson has been vocal in advocating for Suzanne Simpson and her family. In December, Bart Simpson said, "My brother's children are surrounded with love and caring and compassion and are doing as well as you think you could for anybody in this situation." He also added that Brad Simpson does not seem to be the same person. It just made me sad. And so the trial date was actually set for February, but it's been moved back. I'm going to try to actually go to this one. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to. I'm kind of weighing out my options on a few things, but there's a possibility. There's a possibility that I'll be able to attend this trial, and if I do, then I'll be coming back here, because I think here in San Antonio they're not going to broadcast it or anything like that. So I'm going to actually have to physically go in there. I'll document what it is that I hear and then bring it back to you guys. So if you guys are interested in that, if I'm able to do so, I'm not guaranteeing that I will, but if I am, if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comment section. It goes on to say, on Thursday, October 2nd, Suzanne Simpson's sister, Teresa Clark, was arrested in Travis County after she was accused of harassing 4 members of the Brad Simpson's family in December. Clark sent numerous of emails and voicemails that accused the 4 family members of killing Suzanne Simpson. Brad Simpson's pretrial is set for January 2026, with his trial scheduled to begin on February 13th, 2026. The prosecution said that the evidence in the trial will be provided by the Olmos Park Police Department, the Texas Rangers, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And for those, Olmos Park Police Department isn't like, it's just the name of the area. The name of the little city is called Olmos Park. It's not like a park, although there is a park in Olmos Park that you could go to. It is that's just the name of the the little city. And so let's see the timeline, just to kind of get caught up on everything. All righty. So on October 6, 2024, they attended the party. As I said, after the party, Suzanne Simpson went to HEB with her young daughter. Suzanne then left the grocery store and called her mother at around 9:16 p.m. to say that Brad Simpson had just assaulted her. A neighbor told police that between 10 and 11 p.m., so a little bit after that, he heard an argument outside of his bedroom window that became louder. When the neighbor looked outside of his window, he saw that the Simpsons in a physical altercation, and an arrest warrant and affidavit stated. He said that Susan was trying to get away from Brad, and he tried to pull her down, and it appeared Brad was clearly attempting to keep Miss Simpson from running away. The neighbor told authorities he had heard 2 to 3 screams from a brushy area east of the home, the affidavit states. And law enforcement has gone out there, and we've looked at a map, and it's a wooded area. They found nothing of evidentiary value, from what I understand, out there in the middle of the woods. Now, what they tell the media could be completely different than what they may actually have. And that's one of the things that I've mentioned before. When it comes to law enforcement and what they tell the media, it doesn't have to be whole truths. You know what I'm saying? What they put in court documents or result of court documents or court orders are a different story. If it's something that somebody says, it's something that somebody writes and puts in writing. And they said that they didn't find anything of evidentiary value at the time. Does that mean that they were telling the complete truth? I don't know. I hope not. I hope they were withholding some information back, and they did find something. I do. That would end up leading to the arrest. All right. Close to midnight, the neighbor saw Brad start his black GMC pickup and leave his house. This gives off Chris Watts vibe. In the middle of the night, takes off in his truck. The neighbor told authorities that he saw Brad return 1 to 2 hours later. Authorities on October 7th, authorities said that the last activity on Suzanne's phone was about 7:15 a.m. And so I think a lot of people think that she was probably missing or something had already happened to her by then. So at 7:15 a.m. for there to be some activity, um, the morning after she was last seen. So wait, hold on. I thought was this the night before? Yeah. Gordon showed the phone was in the business parking lot of Almost Park. Authorities said that the last activity of Suzanne's phone was around 7:15 a.m. The morning after she was last seen. Oh, the morning after she was last seen. I read that wrong. So yeah, she had not been seen. So in a business parking lot, something was done on her phone. This was the next day. This is most likely, and again, Brad Simpson is innocent until proven guilty, but this is most likely Brad Simpson on the phone at 7:18, parked somewhere going through it. Brad's murder warrant states that on that morning, October 7th, he dropped off his young child at school, then went to a Whataburger in Bernie around 9 a.m. The bed of his truck contained 3 white trash bags, a large heavy-duty trash can, an ice chest, and a large bulky item wrapped and secured in a blue tarp. Now, the reason why I say this is ballsy because if he had her wrapped in there, he goes to like the Home Depot and stuff, and he goes in and he's in there for a while. Then he goes through the drive-through at Whataburger, and just to have a body wrapped up in the tarp in the bed of your truck is kind of in an open truck too that you can see in. I don't buy it. I think that is it possible? Yeah, but I mean, if he's putting the body in the bed of the trunk because he's afraid that it smells, or not afraid that it smells, he doesn't want to deal with the smell while he's driving around. Parking the vehicle out there while he goes inside and having those smells come out would be very not necessarily dangerous, but that would be very careless, and that would lead to possibly somebody discovering that. I think it was more of a loo. He asked somebody, "Hey, where's the nearest place that I can dump some things?" Right, and he goes over there, and then law enforcement end up showing up at the sanitation dump sites and can't find anything, nothing of any value whatsoever. And so to me, I just think that this entire trip was just maybe he did have something in there that he got rid of, but I do not think it was Miss Simpson at that time. All right, continues to go on to say, while in the parking lot of the Home Depot, he asked the man for directions to the nearest dump in Bernie. After leaving the store, Brad intentionally placed his phone in the lockdown mode after he spoke with the man in the parking lot. So he turned off his phone. Maybe I think he had some stuff. I don't know. Maybe he's just that stupid. He did run around with a body in the bed of his truck. Brad's truck was then seen leaving the wayside in Bernie. He then headed to a gas station and bought 2 1-gallon jugs of water. According to the affidavit, the surveillance footage showed the trash bags were no longer in the bed of the truck, but he still had the blue tarp, firewood rack, and a trash can. He also had changed his shoes from sandals to cowboy boots, the affidavit stated. This is the truck that he was driving. Around 1:41 p.m., the license plate reader captured Brad's truck heading back to Kendall County. At that time, the blue tarp was no longer visible in the bed of his truck, with the fire rack repositioned according to the affidavit. Around 3 p.m., the child's school called Brad and advised him that the child had not been picked up from school. At around 3:30, Brad picked up his child from school, and the bed of his truck did not contain the firewood rack. Surveillance video showed that he did have a heavy-duty trash can and ice chest that, at the time, according to the affidavit on November 12th. At 4:10, Brad went to a car wash and cleaned the inside of his truck, the affidavit states. The video showed dried cement splashes near the rear passenger compartment and bed, and only the ice chest was visible inside the bed of the truck. I think that was one of the things, or a couple of things that he purchased at Home Depot was like 2 bags of cement. I believe they still found 1 bag, and it still had 1 bag. And I think he bought buckets too, and they only had 1. Now, I doubt, because she had said, I think to her banker, that a female friend of her who happened to be a banker, that if something happened to her, that to check to Medina Lake. So a lot of people thought that maybe perhaps, he utilized, a cement anchor, right? And somehow held her down in the lake. However, with so much time that has gone by and the little amount of time that he was out of pocket, I doubt it. I doubt that's what happened in that moment. Maybe, throughout the night or some other time, possibly. But I think he was only out of pocket for like 13 minutes when he turned his phone off and he drove into the area and then drove out. It just doesn't seem like it's a lot of time for something like that to happen. That's why I thought it was more of a ruse, so to speak, that it was I think he was just trying to misdirect law enforcement. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that the timing in which where I think he was in there for like I said, 13 minutes and then he was out. That's not enough time to put somebody's like feet in cement, let it set, toss it into the lake, and all those other things. And so I just doubt it. Now maybe maybe somebody would say maybe perhaps he dug a hole and he used that at the top. Again, it sounds like this was a crime that occurred in the moment. The night before they got into an argument, there was a fight outside. So it doesn't seem like there was a lot of premeditation. He was gone for about an hour, right? And now where they live in almost park to get to, I guess Medina or Medina Lake and then back. I mean, that's pushing it too. If he would have done something that night, because he's vehicle leaves and then he comes back. That's not a short distance. Now it is at night, so you're not dealing with traffic and things of that nature. So is it possible? Maybe, but he would then have to go out somewhere, dig a hole. That would be the whole purpose of that, and then come all the way back, and then the next day take her out there, dump the body, then put the cement over it, so that way, maybe perhaps animals don't get to it or whatever. I don't think so. And this was like a crime in the moment. Usually domestic violence crimes are. There are some that are premeditated and things of that nature. But the way it sounds like this went down, this sounds like they had a disagreement, an argument, and then turned physical. So I doubt he went out there and pre-dug a hole somewhere. So I don't know what he did. Now, could he have, dismembered and created a small enough, compact area, like a briefcase, and then dug something, that size and that amount of time? I mean, it's possible. I don't know. It goes on to say, minutes later, Brad called Olmos police and claimed that he hadn't seen his wife since earlier in the morning. So he was claiming that she was alive in the morning. Brad told authorities that he last saw Suzanne at 6:30 a.m. as he was leaving to drop off their child at school. He also claimed that his wife had lost her phone at the HEB on October 6th. The affidavit stated that Suzanne's phone service was suspended approximately 9:16 p.m. on October 6th as well. Records indicated that Brian accessed his AT&T application at the same time Suzanne's service was suspended, meaning that he was the one that suspended her phone. October 8, 2024, investigators said that Brad failed to show up for an interview, that he had instead relocated to his ranch in Bandera County. According to the affidavit, Brad texted James Cotter, a longtime business associate, "If you're in Bandera, can you haul ass and meet me at your house? I don't have much time." Cotter responded, "I'll be there in 40 minutes. Brad said, "Okay, make sure you leave that." It's censored. I'm assuming it's crap into the pump house, especially the gun. Cotter replied, "Get over here. I won't tell anyone. You're my brother." So I think Cotter had immediately assumed that Brad did something to Suzanne. It's kind of the way I read it. Olmos Park released a missing persons flyer to news outlets around 1 p.m. At 4:30 p.m., police interviewed staff at school. One of the children attended. The child told the staff that her parents were fighting and that her dad had assaulted her mom and took her phone away, the affidavit states. The child also said that Suzanne had a bruise on her elbow. Brad's brother, Barton Simpson, told police that Brad had called and apologized for all the problems he had caused. So, he's burning up his phone and his stuff. I wonder if he was going to dispatch himself. if he was going to harm himself, before he got arrested. It kind of sounds like things were leading that way. October 9th at around 1:30 a.m., Brad was arrested off of Interstate 10 East on Frontage Road in Kendall County. Authorities had an arrest warrant for Brad on charges of assault, family violence, and unlawful restraint. He did not appear surprised at the time of his arrest, adding that authorities noticed the laceration and bruises on his arms and hands. So there was signs of defensive wounds. Not necessarily that he was defending himself, but wounds that somebody else was defending themselves against him. Brad was booked into Kendall County at 4 a.m. So this was on October 9th. During the conference, Villegas said 2 teams were recovered in a wooded area near Simpson's home, but they did not confirm whether unsuspected items or unspecified items were connected to Suzanne. I could have swore they actually did a press conference here locally and said that the things that they found were not connected. Texas Rangers executed a search warrant at the home in Bandera County and located a burn site with a burnt laptop, multiple cell phones belonging to Brad Simpson. 2 notes recovered from one of his cell phones were titled This Next Life and Last Will and Testament. Again, like I said, obviously it seems like he was about to dispatch himself. The notes included apologies for physically assaulting his wife in August 2023 and again on October 6th. So he didn't take responsibility for taking her life or anything, just that he did assault her. Interesting. Now, we got to think here for a second. If this guy made something look like he was carrying a body, drove around as a ruse to, have law enforcement follow him around, check all these areas so that way they wouldn't find anything because he wasn't leaving anything. Is it possible that he was creating this, what looked like to be a suicide, so that way when they found it, and that the only thing he took responsibility for was the assault, and he would somehow use this in his defense, like, no, I didn't, in this moment where I was going to hurt myself, I admitted to what I did, which was the assault. I don't know. I doubt it, but, there is something called minimization where people will minimize their responsibility or culpability in a crime. And, I think that's what he's probably most likely doing, in my opinion. You guys let me know. What do you guys think in the comment section? All right, let's see. The Texas Rangers heard Brad's on October 10th. They searched his vehicle, and stains for positive for blood were determined to belong to Brad. So there was blood in his vehicle that belonged to him. Brad Simpson was taken to Bexar County jail after being transferred from Kendall County, and his bond totaled $2 million. And this is when we kind of knew that they were suspecting that he had done something, because they arrested him for charges that weren't related to murder, assault and restraint, and got a $2 million bond. That's pretty obvious. Villegas held another media briefing and released a photo from the security camera showing Suzanne Simpson outside the Argyle on the night of her disappearance. A family member voluntarily surrendered a collection of Brad's firearms to the Almost Park Police Department. Among these was an unlicensed short barrel rifle. On the 11th, federal authorities placed a hold on Brad, keeping him in custody in the Bexar County Jail. So this is what I was talking about, that they kept him in there for a long time before charging him. Authorities searched the 3300 block or 33,000 block of I-10 near Highway 87, about a mile from where Brad Simpson was arrested. And I mean, this is a map here, and it kind of gives you an idea of how far. And he actually lived somewhere down here in the middle, but more towards the left. And so, good distance away. October 12th, a warrant to search the landfill for clues regarding Simpson's disappearance was signed and being filled by the Texas Department of Public Safety. Villegas said later that evidence, statements, and police investigation led officers to the landfill. October 14th, the landfill began, and a bond hearing for Brad was canceled due to the federal hold. On October 15th, a post on X, San Antonio Police Chief William McManus said Almost Park Police asked the San Antonio Police Department to help search, and they, obviously opted in. On October 15th, Brad picked up additional charges for owning the illegal firearm. So he picked up more charges that were not related. Again, he was arrested on October 9th. And so this is 6 days later. And here are the weapons that he was found with. October 16, brother of Brad Simpson condemned his brother on social media, and he released a statement, basically saying to tell everybody where she's at. October 17th, the search of the landfill ended, and DPS said that they found no evidence connected to Suzanne at the site. On the 19th, the city of Olmos Park mayor said that the search would resume within the city limits in the wooded areas around Olmos Park. On the 20th, the Olmos Park execution a search warrant for Cotter, Brad's longtime business associate, and found the illegal AK-47 hidden behind a mounted TV. Brad made reference to the weapon in a text message. On the 21st, Cotter was arrested on felony charges to include tampering with evidence. And this is Cotter here. On the 22nd, Brad was charged with tampering and fabricating physical evidence with the intent to impair as well as prohibited weapon charges. 2 new charges. Again, no murder charge. Arrested, I think it was the 9th. This is October 22nd. 23rd, Suzanne's personal banker told Texas Rangers that Suzanne had made an outcry of domestic violence in August. Suzanne told her that Brad would commonly take her cell phone away. Suzanne told the banker that if she went missing, to look for her in the lake. After the incident in September of 2023, Brad sent a text message to a friend that said, "I feel bad about tonight. I never should have grabbed her phone," and drove off, but she was so protective of it. The authorities searched Brad's home and found 1 bag of cement, a box of heavy-duty black trash bags, and a heavy-duty trash can and metal firewood rack. So everything that he had, for the most part, in the bed of his truck that they couldn't see anymore. It was all there. Again, that kind of leading to that ruse, right? Trying to mislead law enforcement. That's kind of what I think he did here. My opinion. You guys let me know if you guys think the same or if it's a different opinion there. All right. October 24th, Bexar County Attorney Joe Gonzalez challenged the motion to change Brad's bond conditions. 25th, Cotter's attorney told KSAT Cotter had been sitting in a holding cell since his arrest on the 21st. And Martin deemed the charges against his client conditions of the Bexar County jail and accused Gonzalez and the Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar of trying to coerce Cotter into cooperating. Cotter appeared in front of a pre-indictment judge in an effort to get a bond. On the 29th, Brad told a family court that his wife was probably in Austin with friends because it was her happy place. He then told by his attorney to stop talking and did not answer any of the questions. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that he had said that she was probably in Austin with her friends. Interesting. Kind of leads us to believe where maybe he's going to think that she ran off. He didn't go pick up his kids on purpose, waited for them to call so that he can make it seem like he was unaware of it. November 4th, Cotter had a bond hearing where Maurer, his attorney, argued for a reduction, calling it unconstitutional. Now we're going into November 5th. Again, not charged yet. Suzanne's 20-year-old daughter posted a series of stories on Instagram about her mother's disappearance and spoke out against domestic violence. One of the Instagram stories alleged that her father, Brad, took my mother's life in a stage of rage and control. I remember that. That was crazy. Let's see. November 7th, Brad is finally charged with murder. What was that, like almost 2 months? Or it was October 9th? So about a month, just shy of a month later. He's finally charged with murder of his wife's death. The judge sets the Simpsons bond for murder charge at $2 million, bringing his total bond to $5 million. Let's see. And then there was a decision to reduce the bond for Cotter. The reduction brought the total down to $100,000, $50,000 for each charge. Previously, his bond totaled $1 million. Did he cooperate? Did he say something that he knew? I mean, that's a good possibility, right? Oh boy finally gets charged the same day that this guy's bond gets reduced. Not saying, I doubt it, but you never know. Could that have been it? What do you guys think? Do you think that he talked? Did he finally talk Cotter and say something? Is that what they were waiting for so that they could get the evidence to arrest, Brad Simpson? Okay, which Cotter did officially post bond. Brad's brother, Barton, spoke to the media again and urged Brad to cooperate with investigators. Let's see. November 12th, KSAD gets the affidavit. November 14th, Brad's attorney files a motion formally asking for examining trial or a hearing in which prosecutors must bring in witnesses to prove there's enough evidence to move forward with the charge. In the event that the state fails to present sufficient evidence to support finding a probable cause by the court. November 19th, a hearing was set and a bunch of different hearings. We're not going to go through all the hearings. Now, let's get to what happened recently. So this was scheduled to start February 13th, as I had told you guys before. Let's see what's going on now. New accusations and details are emerging in the prolonged murder case against Brad Simpson. The Elmos Park father and husband accused of killing his wife, Suzanne Simpson, and hiding her body. The defense attorney is calling into question some of the lead investigators, likely expected to testify, accusing them of moral and unprofessional missteps even in this very case. So that means that they're going to kind of show right off the bat, that kind of tells me they're going to show that there's been a history also of some issues. So I hope it doesn't affect this case. The murder case against Brad Simpson has been an uphill battle. His wife's body has never been found, despite massive digs throughout multiple trash heaps and properties. Prosecutors have delayed the process of citing mountains of evidence to wade through, and Simpson's attorneys even tried to argue a murder case couldn't move forward without a body to prove of homicide, which we all know that's not true. Now, Simpson's defense attorney, Stephen Gilmore, is calling into question whether some of the investigators involved in the case are fit to testify in trial. In the most damning accusation, Gilmore accuses Olmos Park Police Chief Fidel Villegas of giving Olmos Park Mayor Aaron Harrison a private look at physical evidence in the case against Simpson. Now, how does he know that? How does the defense attorney know that? I wonder if there was some sort of information that would lead us to believe why he would have known that. And did that follow a line of custody, so to speak? Did they break chain of custody? That's going to be the issue here. The only disclosure that has been given to the defense regarding Villegas relates to Villegas' incomprehensible decision to allow Olmos Park Mayor Aaron Harrison a private viewing of all the physical evidence in OPPD's possession, a calculation that very well may destroy the chain of custody for many items. That's just kind of what I said. Gilmore wrote in his motion for discovery outlining several other claims and civil actions against both Villegas and other investigators. Gilmore says the chief did this even after the judge presiding over the Simpson case issued a gag order prohibiting the exchange of information about the case between or from anyone who was interviewed by investigators. It was shocking. It was a shocking move after family members spoke openly about the impact of the case and what they believe happened the night Suzanne Simpson went missing on October 6. The defense attorney wants a record of any discipline, if any, the chief has received because of the alleged misstep. Further, he says that the lead prosecutor compiling the case against Simpson had asked the chief and the Texas Rangers to conduct an audit of the evidence and to document the access granted to the mayor on October 22nd. A pretty specific date. I wonder how they were able to pull that up. Though Gilmore says that the proof this happened has not been handed over to him. The motion goes on to reference civil trials against the police chief, accusing him of questionable leadership decisions, which surfaced in a civil suit when Villegas was with the Converse Police Department. Essentially, Gilmore wants the state to procure any disciplinary records and personal files for Villegas, a Olmos Park PD Sergeant Melissa Campbell, and Texas Ranger Jesse L. Perez. That's not the only shocking bit of information to come out of the latest court documents filed with the Bexar County District Clerk's office just before the judge agreed to delay Brad Simpson's trial for at least 60 days. It was set to go before jury in mid-February. And here's a picture of Brad Simpson recently. This is December 5th, 2024, so about 2 months ago. The state prosecutors are looking to secure a murder charge conviction against Simpson, are asking the judge to allow them to use hearsay testimony from the wife, presumed dead. Under Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 38.49, prosecutors want to go before the judge to try and prove Simpson's death was an effort to rid her as a witness in a prior domestic violence case. Interesting. Now, I sent this article to one of my good friends who's an attorney, and she gave me her insights on it. I'd only read the first couple of articles. Hadn't read everything, so I'm kind of reading this for the first time ish. I read the first paragraphs. Interesting. I wonder if there was a case that they're talking about, because I mean, I know she did the outcry, right? She did the outcry to the banker, which I'm sure they're going to be allowed to use that in court. But was there an open investigation? Because if you're saying that, he got rid of her to be a witness in prior domestic violence cases, like, was he aware and afraid that she was going to report him? Now, that tells me that they probably have something there. Text messages, maybe perhaps text messages with Cotter. Maybe this is what Cotter may have told them. Maybe Cotter said something to the effect that, hey, he panicked because she was going to call the cops on him and had all this evidence against him. Or maybe perhaps he went through her phone, found evidence of that she was saving evidence against him, and he lost it. But how are you going to prove that unless he said something to somebody? He must have said something to somebody. Now, if you have these cases already built, that's one thing. Let's see. So we got Chloe here. See, it says, if the prosecutor asked the Rangers to document the chain of custody to reflect showing the physical evidence to the mayor, it definitely happened. Who told the defense about it first? I don't know. That's interesting. Sounds like the prosecutors are trying to say that she was going to testify in a previously opened DV case between the two of them. But I don't recall there being an open DV case against Brad Simpson before. Now, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section if you've been following this case a little bit closer than I have. But I don't recall there being an open case. But it does say hearsay testimony from the wife presumed dead. So it does sound like she did testify against him. Maybe perhaps he found out about it. Maybe, you get what I'm saying? Because it says they want to use hearsay testimony from the wife presumed dead. Now, the term testimony, I'm assuming, is to law enforcement, to a judge, to somebody, not just the banker. I don't think that's considered. Well, maybe that is. What do you think, Chloe? Is this, when they say allow hearsay testimony from the wife presumed dead, is this what she told the banker? Because she mentioned that there was other assaults. Let me go back to the timeline. Let me see if I had seen that up here. Where was it? Okay, on October 23rd, Suzanne's personal banker told Rangers that she made an outcry of domestic violence in August. Suzanne also told her that Brad would commonly take her phone and away, and that if she went missing, that she'd be found in the lake. After an incident in September 2023, are they trying to? Do you think this is what it could be? Could it be a recording? It could be. They use an interesting term of testimony. So I don't know if she made a statement to, like an official statement to somebody for it to be called hearsay testimony. But then again, if it's from her, that's not hearsay, so it has to be the banker. Has to be the banker, right? Because if she made a statement to somebody, that's not hearsay. That's her statement. It has to be the banker. Let's see. They want to admit previous statements from her discussing domestic violence between the two of them. I don't know which specific statements those are. Perhaps we can find the actual motion within the statements. Interesting. But admitting the statements at his murder, that trial would be hearsay testimony. If it's from her, wait, hold on, I can't. my screen's too small. If it's from her, it is hearsay. Oh, it is a hearsay if it's from her. I thought hearsay was from somebody else. Hearsay. Let me make this bigger. Hearsay is any out of court statement offered for the truth of the matter. Oh, okay. I thought hearsay was like, first person, second person, third person. If it's third person, not coming from, somebody directly, then that was hearsay. So it could be hers, could be her statements. Now, would a statement to law enforcement be considered an out of court statement? Because then it would come back to, in my opinion, the statement she made to the banker and to others. And I wonder if she made a statement to somebody that she was going to file charges against him. And I don't know. I think there might be something there to this. Daniel, could it be a trial from him assaulting someone else, and she was going to testify for prosecution? Maybe. Again, I don't know what kind of criminal record he has. I'm gonna have to look that up. I probably should continue to read. It says, in a nutshell, prosecutors want to be able to use hearsay statements about Suzanne Simpson, saying they have records of prior family violence showing Brad Simpson's misconduct was done, at least in one part, to procure the unavailability of the witness. Okay, so I think this still goes back to the banker, and maybe other folks that she may have told people, because I think she told her mom that night also on the phone call that Brad had assaulted her, and so I guess maybe that's what they're going, is that she was calling people and telling people about the assault, and he tried to do something. But that doesn't sound, I mean, that's, I guess that when they say a previous, it sounds like something that was before the incident that may have caused her death, in my opinion. I don't know. It's out of court unless she said it in court, under oath, or in a prior proceeding. So if you say something to police, is that considered hearsay? The law is so confusing. The state has also subpoenaed Child Protective Services under a rushed request for any records investigations into the Simpson family. The same prosecutor wanted a record of Simpson's hunting license and harvest tags. Simpson has been behind bars in Bexar County Jail for well over a year, nearly as long as his wife and mother of four. A beloved real estate agent residing in an swanky, almost park home with her family was last seen on October 6th. The husband was arrested on October 10th, days after his wife was reportedly seen arguing with him and being assaulted after a heated exchange at an exclusive Alamo Heights club. He was initially charged with unlawful restraint and family violence charges, but his felony accusations would skyrocket in the weeks that followed as warrants of suspicious activity, text messages, and hidden weapons by a friend and business partner James V. Carter were revealed in warrants and court records. Okay. Now, the other thing is, I guess the big piece of thing, the big worry is there going to be a situation where some of the evidence could be thrown out because of the mayor getting a private view of the evidence? I obviously think that this is a bad decision by the chief there. Um, but to a certain extent, the mayor is kind of not necessarily like the direct boss of the police chief, but the mayor is in charge of the city manager. The city manager is the direct boss of the police chief. And so, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a poor choice for sure. Do I think is it gonna get thrown out? Is it gonna throw anything out? I think if there's not a chain of custody, if they allowed the evidence to come out of evidence without signing out and signing it in, it can be. I would highly expect. Um, I would highly expect the defense to probably call in, the mayor and ask why they were looking at it, if they were aware of this, why they allow something like that. Why didn't they, punish the chief of police? I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions to try to make it seem like it's a huge, huge thing, which, I mean, it can be, you know. This isn't a movie, somebody lost her life. And you want to go in there and like, oh, look at all the stuff we got. It's just absolutely crazy, in my opinion, to do something like that. But will it actually do anything? I don't know. I hope not. Because this case, in my opinion, you don't have a body. It took so long to make an arrest. It makes it seem like they didn't have any like a murder scene per se. Like they didn't have a place where they can say, oh, this is where she lost her life, how she lost her life. None of those things. And so if any evidence gets thrown out, this most likely highly circumstantial case could crumble. And it would suck just because of, trying to give somebody a sneak peek of the evidence. I think that's wild. Absolutely it is, unless an exception applies. We'll see. Let's see. Daniel, could it be a trial from him assaulting someone? Oh, yeah, we got that one. Sorry about that. I don't know about that one. If you guys have any comments or questions, put them in the comment section. Put a couple stars so that I know you're talking to me, and let me know. Mayor is a coworker, though not a personal friend. That is true. That's kind of what I was saying. Like, the mayor is an elected official, right? And they don't necessarily hire. I mean, I don't know how Almost Park works, right? Everywhere is different. But most places, the way it works is a mayor is elected, right? And then there's a city council, and the city council and the mayor all decide like who becomes the police chief and who they hire and stuff like that. Well, actually, they hire the city manager, and the city manager is the one who decides, alongside sometimes with, depends on where it's at. I know that city council can have a say in certain places, but it's like a collective group. So the mayor isn't like anybody's boss per se, but they help make the decision to hire these individuals, and they can also fire them. The city manager, and that's why the chief of police can become a very political position, because a new mayor can come in. They're going to want to bring in a new city manager. That city manager is going to want to bring in their own chief of police and things of that nature in certain places, depending on where they're at and their rules and regulations on those type of things. But that's why it can become very political. But I don't know. I've never seen something like that. Now, I will say in the Brian Koberger case that I believe the mayor had a lot of information in that case as well. Doesn't matter who it was. Sounds like they gave the mayor a private viewing and didn't update the chain of custody until the defense found out about the viewing. See, now that's an issue. If that ends up being the case, right? It's that would be an issue. At least we know it wasn't her body. Yeah, the one that was found in Medina County. Yeah. Yeah, it would definitely be an issue. Yes. Thank you, Mal Mama, as well. If they didn't update the chain of custody, ooh, that's going to be hard. And again, if anything gets thrown out, this is not the strongest case, in my opinion, because they don't have a body. It doesn't sound like they have a murder scene, a location, cause of death. It doesn't seem like they have a way or even know how he disposed the body outside of having some DNA on a handsaw, which I'm sure he's going to say, I mean, she's used it. She may, she cut herself at one point, or she had a nosebleed in her nose, when I was working on something, and, that's how I got. I mean, it's concerning. We'll leave it at that. It's concerning. Well, guys, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back on Tuesday night. That's going to be it for me tonight. I'll be back on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about the Brian Kohberger case and what Howard Bloom said. You don't want to miss it. I want to say thank you to everybody. Please hype the content, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. If you like the whole Pokemon stuff I'm doing, you'll see that tomorrow morning. All righty, guys. Until next time. Peace out, y'all. See you next time. Bye.